After serving for 5 years as Canada's ambassador to the United Nations, Bob Rae bid farewell this week to the General Assembly. Rae's parting words for member nations: be contributors to change.
UN is not a cafeteria. You don't walk in and say, I like this, but I don't like that. I like this peacekeeping mission, but I don't like that peacekeeping mission. I'll pay for this, but I won't pay for that. These are core values of citizenship. We don't pay our taxes and say, well, I don't want to pay for this because I don't agree with it. No, you pay your taxes. You pay your dues. And we have to create a culture in this organization where we recognize that paying up and paying in and contributing are actually core to what we do.
Ambassador Bob Rae joins me now. Bob Rae, thanks for making time for us on your final day at the UN. Thank you, sir.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
The UN has faced some challenges over the years since its establishment, and multilateralism itself is facing some pressures right now. How do you see the current state of things at the UN as you leave, and just the multilateral agenda in general?
Well, it's tough. I think it would be foolish to say otherwise, but I think it would also be an exaggeration to say that, it's the end of the world. The whole system is challenged, but in many ways it's facing up to the challenge. If you look at the multilateral system more broadly, ministers and prime ministers and heads of government, with a few exceptions, are spending a lot of time meeting and talking with each other about how to make things better, how to make things improve. Are they making huge headway? No, they're not, because the winds blowing in the direction are pretty strong. But I think, generally speaking, there's a very substantial number of countries around the world that understand to what extent they rely on greater and more predictable relationships with their neighbors, and that's having, an impact on everyone. So, yes, it is tough, no question. But as I said, I think it's something we can weather this storm. I really believe that.
It seems like a lot of the middle powers are sort of banding together, forming political and economic blocs, because the great powers have just become unreliable, to use a charitable word. It seems like the middle is banding together in a different kind of way.
I think that's right. And I think the middle is holding well. There's a huge amount of effort to build better understanding with Europe, with countries in Asia, with countries in Africa, literally around the world. I've never seen multilateral diplomacy more active in the sense of working with regions, really trying hard to create frameworks of better understanding on trade, better understanding on security, and that's really happening. The UN itself is affected because one of the principal bodies of the UN, the Security Council, is having a rough time. But they did pass a resolution on Haiti to allow a multilateral force to be created. They will be debating this weekend and into Monday the question of what's next in terms of the efforts to enforce any kind of ceasefire or agreement in Gaza, and we'll see a result there. Ironically, the Americans are actually responsible for coming back to the Security Council under Ambassador Waltz and trying to see if they can make it work. It's quite remarkable.
In your final speech, you spoke about the importance of going beyond the peace and security mandate of the UN to address economic and social challenges, things like human rights and climate change. Why did you feel it necessary? Why did you want to stress those particular points?
Well, because I think there's a tendency, certainly among what we call the P3. There's the P5 and the P3. P3 are Russia, China, and the United States. And there's a tremendous tendency among those countries particularly Russia and the United States, to see the world really in post-World War II terms. It's all about peace and security. It's all about the big guys making a deal. And I think that's something that leaves too many other people outside. Chinese have a different perspective. They're looking to kind of present a different world of development and the role that they can play in that world of development. So, keep your eye on China, I would say. But when it comes to looking at, how we can make multilateralism work better, it's all about trade and broadly speaking, aid, but aid basically focused more on finance and more on investment than we've seen in the past. And the more we can work in those lanes as well as the other lanes where, the big two, if you like, although I don't think Russia's really that big at the moment, can function. That's the way we got to go. And you've heard me say this before. The trade thing really upset the apple cart. The unilateral imposition of tariffs around the world just completely, I think, buffaloed people and has created all kinds of issues with inflation, which we're seeing in our country and in the United States. Higher interest rates going back up. All kinds of things happening which didn't need to happen, but were really a decision the Americans made to inflict this wound on the global economy in the name of a political ideology. And at some point, they'll back away from that because it doesn't work, and that will have an impact on any economy, on any country. Things don't work. It doesn't matter what your ideology is. You got to change to deal with what works.
You talked about those issues in your speech about human rights, economic and social issues, and climate change. You also talked about the importance of truth, right? And there's speaking truth as diplomatic and political leaders on issues like climate change, human rights, corruption. But then there is this disinformation world in which we live, with the collapse of industries like mine and the rise of the unfettered social media platforms. How challenging does it come to develop support for multilateral collective action when we don't even have a common set of facts, let alone a common set of problems?
It's tough. If you've got a group of people who say there is no such thing as truth, truth is all relative and who knows what truth is. And then they say by the way, there's no such thing as misinformation, no such thing as disinformation, and no such thing as science, or at least, the science is kind of iffy. We don't really follow the science. Climate change doesn't really exist. It's mythology. When the president of the United States talked some of that language at the UN, it should have been a moment when everybody just takes their breath in and say, holy moly, we are dealing with an attempt to unroll the universe since Galileo, and you sort of say this is crazy, and so we are really having to fight back on many fronts, and these are the fronts we need to fight back on. We can't afford to be vague or unclear about the importance of the facts, the importance of truth, the importance of understanding how propaganda works, how professional lying works, and how deeply embedded propaganda and professional lying are in the world of social media. They are deeply embedded in those technologies. And so the people who are running those technologies have got a hell of a responsibility on their hands, because they are allowing things to be perpetrated which have no relationship to the truth.
Yeah, President Macron made a point, I think, a few weeks ago that the West has kind of outsourced the safeguarding of democracy to these tech platforms that kind of don't share our values, right? And you're sort of reaping the consequences of that now in sort of what's happened in the information economy. And you combine that with the unraveling of multilateralism to a degree. David Lametti's walking into a heck of a situation on Monday when he replaces you, Bob Ray.
Well, he knows what he's getting himself into, because I've talked about this quite a lot, and it's a fascinating time. But the worst thing we can do in this situation is to walk away, and the worst thing we can do is just fold up tents and say there's not much we can do about it, or else become just universal cynics and just say there's nothing to be done. It's awful. It's terrible, and go off and run a hot dog stand somewhere. We can't do that. We those of us who've been at this game for a long time, we can't afford to leave the field. So I have no intention of leaving the field. By the way, I'll be staying active in some other way. Not quite sure what yet, but I will be continuing to put forward the kind of arguments and points of view that I've been expressing.
Okay, so we might still have Bob Ray to kick around for a little while longer, is what you're saying with that answer. We just don't know yet in what role.
You certainly will. I mean, and you also, after death, David, I mean, there's no reason for you guys to stop kicking me just because I'm, 6 feet under somewhere. Just keep going.
Well,
Just go at it.
AI is doing amazing things these days, Bob Ray. So maybe we can figure that out. Look, just a quick final point. You said farewell also by reading a Shakespearean sonnet, Sonnet 25. Let those who are in favor with their stars of public honor and proud titles boast. You've done that a couple of times, I think. Well, why that specific piece of writing?
Well, when I first read that poem many years ago in high school, I had a wonderful English teacher who took us through Shakespeare's sonnets and plays, unforgettable. And I love this particular sonnet because really it summarizes the contrast between the things we think matter and the things that our value systems and the media and everything else tell us really matter. How powerful are you? How rich are you? How many battles did you win? And in the end, it's all irrelevant. What matters is how have you loved? How have people loved you? And if you have that, then you can't be removed, and you can't be removed from it, and nobody can take those things away from you. And I think it's for me, it's an idea that has helped me through moments when I wasn't quite sure what kind of battles would come next or where I would go next. But I've learned a lot from all those victories and defeats, and I take a lot of solace in friendship, and certainly the love that I have with my wife and family, and with many, many friends around the world, whose number is increasing because of the work that I've been doing at the UN. I have felt myself to be appreciated here, and I've really enjoyed my time, and I've really appreciated the support of 2 prime ministers and many Canadians. So I'm happy to keep on going.
I remember my family doctor back in St. John's once saying to me, you spend your whole life building 2 things, your resume and your obituary. And at one point you have to decide which one matters more. And it's inevitably the obituary. What the people who care about you say about you when it's all over. It's sort of building on the Shakespeare theme there. Bob Ray, we've appreciated your time every time.
You've done it again, though, David. You buried me one more time. This has got to stop.
I quoted somebody else,
Who are you, Mark Critch? Give me a break here.
Listen, Bob Ray, we've appreciated your willingness to come on the show in good times and in difficult times. It's been much appreciated, and good luck in the next chapter of your life.
Thanks so much. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.